Hello and welcome to another edition of anime reviews on the Fallout Experiment. Today we're going to be talking about an anime that I actually really like. Yeah, big shocker. And I mean all the way through, too. Not like Bleach, where I really liked the first season or so, and then it just kind of went downhill and got better for a minute and then went back downhill. No, today we're going to be talking about Code Geass. I'm never sure if I'm pronouncing that last part right, so, ignore it if it's wrong. But anyway, yes, Code Geass, or Lelouch of the Rebellion. This anime is set in kind of this alternate universe, kind of like Full Metal Alchemist is, where Britannia, or Britain, took over Japan, and and all the citizens get renamed as 11s. So which is very, very dehumanizing, taking somebody's name and then putting the number there. It's like really Nazi-like to do that. So that's very, very psychological kind of warfare that they do. But anyway, they rename them all as 11s, and then there's the, class segregation. So, and the 11s have this underground resistance that they're trying to fight and take back Japan, basically. And we also have our main character, Lelouch v. Lamperouge, or Lelouch v. Britannia. He is the exiled prince of Britannia. And we have his sister Nunnally, who is the princess. And they were exiled, and I'm going to try and not spoil too much here. But they were exiled because their mother was killed in Lelouch, and Nunnally therefore went blind, and Lelouch was really pissed off. And his father didn't like that. So, moving on. Basically, this story centers around him and later Suzaku, but we'll get to him in a little bit. Basically, it centers around Lelouch, though, and I guess she's a witch. You don't really learn too much about her, but she's this green-haired lady called Cece, and she gives Lelouch the power of a Geass. And a Geass, it depends on who gives it to you, I think, and it can be different, but Lelouch has the power to where one of his eyes will turn red, and basically he gains the power of ultimate suggestion. So if he says, go make me a sandwich, you will go make him a sandwich. But as soon as eye contact is broken, it's over. And he can't do it twice, which he takes him a little bit to find out. But he starts using this power to become a terrorist under the name of Zero, and attacking his family members and trying to basically get back at the king, because he's not necessarily sided with the 11s, though I do feel that he understands their plight and thinks it's wrong. It's more so he wants a world for his sister to live in that is a world where the weak aren't overtaken by the strong. And so it's got kind of one of those things to it, where it's the writer and creator puts a lot on the whole weak overtaking the strong overtaking the weak kind of thing. But there's also a lot about the malaise of youth. All this bad stuff is happening that anybody can see, but hardly anybody does anything about it, which is another reason that this is so good. Is socially relevant, and it's to a degree that it's socially relevant to us even. I mean, I'm not going to get into too many political things, but when things go wrong, a lot of us just don't blog about it, except for the whole internet bills, in which case a lot of us were up in arms. But still, it's got that whole factor about the malaise of youth thing, and I really thought that was an interesting thing. Anyway, so basically the series is all about Lelouch and him trying to make the world a better place. And they end up forming this terrorist group with the 11s because it slowly becomes more and more of a thing, and he's taking out these members of his family that are royal and hold and hold a lot of power, and to get to the king and to break down the Britannia's military and their resources, and it becomes more of a war, and it's very strategic, and it's very, very character driven. And Code Geass itself is very short. So we're also going to talk a little bit about R2. So this is going to be a whole thing on Code Geass, including R2, which R2 is basically Code Geass ends, and then after it ends, R2 begins, which is, I think, set like a year or two later. But anyway, and then, like I said, there's another character in the show called Suzaku, and Suzaku is very similar to Lelouch. Lelouch is very smart, and it's kind of like Death Note, where you have Light and you have L. Light believes that killing the criminals brings justice, while L believes that the judicial system and the natural way for things to go in a law-abiding state would be justice. So it's kind of the same thing, except with Lelouch, he believes that radical almost pretty much terrorism to a degree. I wouldn't say that they're terrorists because they never really hurt people, but because they do kind of terrify some people, I believe, throughout the show, they would be considered terrorists. Basically, radical terrorism and extremism, and basically taking the power back by force is what you need to do. Whereas Suzaku believes from working from the inside out. So basically, he's trying to do this position in the military thing and raise in ranks so that he can control what happens. And the two of them are at odds ends on this. Now, I've read a little bit of the manga, and I think that the show deviates a little bit, but it's not really that big of a deal. So, you know. But anyway, again, trying not to spoil too much, but at the end of Code Geass, before we hit R2, you can see that Lelouch is kind of starting to go a little bit crazy, and I really like that. There is some pretty solid character development in this show, especially with Lelouch, because he does go off the deep end to a degree. Again, similar to Light from Death Note, but a lot less egomaniacal, I think. Whereas Light, went off the deep end because he wanted to be a god. Lelouch does it because he's slowly and surely losing his inhibitions throughout this war. He becomes more and more okay with doing more and more shady things, which is really cool and really interesting because he works very well as an anti-hero, I think. And so anyway, R2 begins and Lelouch has lost his memory. I'm not going to tell you how, because if you haven't seen this, like I said, you really should, and I don't want to ruin that for you. But he lost his memory, and Cece the witch comes back and gives it to him, and he remembers what's going on. So they reform everything, and they basically pick up where they left off. And I remember R2 being a lot shorter, which kind of disappointed me, because, it was just shorter, and I felt like it was kind of rushed at points, but there were some really interesting things happening in it, and I really enjoyed that whole arc. And actually, again, like I said, when Lelouch doesn't have his memory, he still kind of acts like Lelouch. He still kind of causes trouble. He's kind of a punk kid. He's really smart and he's really good at chess. But at the beginning of R2, he's about to be attacked because I think he won a chess game, and people are really pissed off about that for some reason. It's been a while since I've watched the first episode of R2, but he's in trouble, and I'm pretty sure it's over chess. If not, feel free to correct that. But yeah, and then CC gives him his powers back, and he's okay. And again, there's that he starts going over the deep end again, and he also starts using his Geass a lot, which causes it to be in both eyes from that point on. And when that happens, he starts having to wear contacts, and I think the other members of his group find out who he is at some point, and all that. But it's really good stuff. It's really good stuff. And the ending, without telling you what happens, I will tell you that I was both disappointed and very happy with it, because the ending made perfect sense. What they did with it, I don't think I could have done anything else with, and at the same time they left it kind of open enough to where you don't know what happened. You don't necessarily know if it happened the way you saw it, or if there was something else going on. And I think that, and that's pretty cool. Um, and getting into some other things, like I said, the character development with Lelouch, and pretty much everybody's really good. Everybody goes through some solid character development in this, and even Suzaku by R2 starts questioning what he's doing, and that's really, and he was so gung ho about that. He really is. The music was pretty good. It fit very well, and it overall this show worked really well. And there were a lot of very strong female characters in this, such as Karen. I think that's her name, or I think that's how to pronounce her name anyway. But such as her, she was a very strong female character, and even Cece was. She was really mysterious and kind of stayed in the background, but she didn't take no shit. And those two were really good. Even Nunnally in R2 becomes pretty badass, which I think is pretty interesting. And you have to see what I mean and everything. But there is one character which, again, there's always one female character that I think is meant to be like the innocent female character that usually I don't care for. And in this one, it's fuck. I think she has orange hair too, which is funny because I remember her acting a lot like Orihime and comparing her to her a lot. She's not bad. She's not, like I said, same thing with Orihime. She's not stupid. She's not bad per se. She's just meant to be kind of that person. And really, she doesn't get into too much trouble. And actually, she does, I think, cause Lelouch to go through some character development things because somebody gets the Geass to release people from their Geass, I think, and in R2, or erase that it happened, and she remembers something, and it has this really cool scene where Lelouch realizes something, and there's a lot of stuff going on. And actually, there are a lot more Geass users in R2, which is kind of interesting, but I feel like it jumped the shark a little bit with that. Like, I feel like we shouldn't have done that as much as we did, though it makes sense at the same time because the king, I'm pretty sure, is like freaking out a bit, and he doesn't want, like, especially when he realizes Lelouch is back, because I think he tries to keep it undercover, but I think like he still has somebody with him the entire time in R2 just in case, and once that person realizes it, it's basically like, oh shit. So it makes sense that he did that as a strategic, like, okay, if this guy over here starts doing shit again, fuck him up, because we can't do this. That was scary last time. Don't tell anybody it was scary, but it was scary. But, that's, I don't want to get into too much and ramble on about that. Code Geass R2, both really, really good stuff. I really enjoyed them. They were good characters. It was an interesting concept, and it was just really good all the way through. It's actually one of my favorites. Hell, I like it so much. I have a background of Code Geass on my computer right now. I mean, that's how much I liked this show. It's definitely in my top 5 animes, and I highly, highly recommend this anime to anybody who hasn't seen it. So, go out there, watch Code Geass, watch R2, and then, come back here and talk to me about how great it was. Or, if you don't like it, tell me why you didn't like it. And if anybody has any animes or whatever that they'd like me to review, comment or inbox me about it. I'll go look into it and let you know what I think. Alright, over and out.